There was a time before the world got too loud, when you whispered promises to yourself, a quiet vow made in the innocence of girlhood, that one day you'd become a woman of strength, of purpose, of inner peace. That version of you still waits, not in the future, but within. The journey is not about becoming someone new, but remembering who you were before the world taught you who to be. This is the path of return. This is the Shaolin way. Calm, intentional, unshakable. There is a silence that lives beneath all the noise of your current life, a stillness that predates the woman you've become. And in that stillness, if you listen carefully, not with your ears, but with your heart, you can still hear her. The girl you used to be, the one who looked at the world not through the lens of fear but wonder. The one who didn't apologize for her curiosity or question her worth or shrink herself to make others comfortable. That version of you was whole before the world convinced you that you were not enough. And if you're quiet, if you slow down just enough, you can find her again. You see, this isn't about becoming something new. It's about returning to the essence that has always been there. Underneath the labels, the roles, the responsibilities, underneath the masks you wear to keep the peace, to be liked, to fit in, to survive. The Shaolin path is not one of performance, it is one of remembrance. You are here to remember who you are beneath it all. So many women drift further and further from themselves, not because they are weak, but because they are trained to forget. Trained to be accommodating before being authentic. Trained to be pleasing before being powerful. But the sacred rebellion begins with a single breath. Inward, not outward. A breath that takes you not into the future, but back into your soul's beginning. Ask yourself, what did she dream of before anyone told her what was realistic? What made her eyes light up? What did she believe about love, about life, about herself? Before the wounds came, before rejection rewrote her worth, before betrayal silenced her softness. Sit with that version of you, not as a memory to mourn, but as a compass to follow. She is not lost. She is not gone. She's just been waiting. Waiting for you to stop chasing versions of yourself built from expectations. Waiting for you to stop outsourcing your value to things that can be taken away. She's been there, all along, underneath your exhaustion, beneath your overthinking, behind the woman who does it all but still feels like something's missing. The way back is not in striving, it is in stillness. The monks of the Shaolin temple understand this well. When you sit, when you breathe, when you become completely present with yourself, the noise falls away. And what remains is not confusion, it's clarity. It's the unfiltered knowing that you were not born broken, you were born whole. You were born with enough. You were born with everything you needed already inside. You were not put on this earth to forget her. You were meant to protect her, to carry her spirit forward, refined by wisdom but untouched by fear. To let her guide your steps, not as a child, but as a sacred memory of purity, of strength, of untamed knowing. When a woman reconnects with her younger self, she doesn't regress. She reclaims. She reclaims softness without surrender. She reclaims joy without guilt. She reclaims the right to be loud, to be free, to be unseen yet complete. She becomes the guardian of her own light. And in that return, the journey toward becoming the woman you promised yourself you'd be finally begins. Not through pressure. Not through remembering. Because when you begin to remember her, you also begin to remember something even deeper. You were never meant to follow someone else's path. You were meant to walk your own. There is an invisible clock many women carry, ticking not from within but from the outside. A pressure that whispers, by this age you should be married, by now you should have children, a successful career, a perfect body, a stable relationship, a clean past, a clear future. It is not your voice, and yet it echoes in your mind over and over until you mistake it for truth. But in the Shaolin tradition, truth is not determined by repetition. Truth is uncovered in stillness. What society tells you is urgency may in fact be distraction. What the world calls a milestone may not be your path at all. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The rhythm of your life was never meant to match someone else's tempo. The seasons of your growth were never meant to bloom on command. Even the lotus flower grows in the mud and takes its time. No monk ever asks, when will enlightenment come? Because to ask is to forget. Forget that real evolution has no timeline. It unfolds when the conditions within are ready. And readiness is not measured in age, it's measured in awareness. So breathe deeply in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let go of the deadlines that were never yours to begin with. Let go of the weight that says you should have it all figured out by now. Let go of the fear that tells you are missing something simply because your life doesn't look like hers. The comparison is the thief of your peace. It is not the calendar that determines your growth, it is your consciousness. There are women who marry young and break apart in silence. There are women who build empires at 50 after decades of self-doubt. There are women who find love after divorce, healing after trauma, purpose after years of wandering. And none of them were late. They were simply honest about their past, honest enough to let their timing unfold organically, not mechanically. That is strength, that is discipline, that is wisdom. Not need to justify your pace. That is wisdom. That is why. But come like a slow look, Willie. That what the flow. When you cling to timelines, you live in tension. You may reach certain milestones, but they will feel empty if you arrived only to appease the world's expectations. You cannot force fruit from a tree that has not yet rooted. You cannot skip the inner work and expect lasting peace. The Shaolin masters understand this well. What appears still on the surface is often transforming at the core. Perhaps your journey isn't delayed, it's deepening. Perhaps the space you call stagnation is sacred preparation. What if this pause in your life isn't punishment, but alignment? A hidden realignment of your purpose, your values, your spirit. And what if the woman you are becoming is not slow, but intentional? You must give yourself permission to unfold without apology. To not only detach from the timelines set by others, but to realize they were never sacred to begin with. They were man-made metrics, social projections, external measurements for internal journeys. And once you let them go, something extraordinary happens. Your energy returns to you. Your choices feel lighter. Your voice sounds clear, but because the world changed, but because you did. And in that moment, when the noise fades and the timeline crumbles, you don't feel behind. You feel free. You feel ready. You feel trust returning. Because now you're not walking with pressure, you're walking with peace. And that peace becomes the foundation for what comes next. There is a quiet chapter in every woman's journey. A chapter where it feels like nothing is moving, nothing is changing, and nothing is working. You wake up, breathe, show up, but still feel stuck. Like you're walking through fog, unsure if your steps are leading anywhere at all. And yet, this space, this silence between what was and what will be, is not a punishment. It is the sacred pause, the incubation of transformation. It is where the roots grow deepest, though nothing appears above the surface. And so often, the reason we suffer is not because we are lost, but because we have forgotten how to trust the invisible. The Shaolin monks have a saying, "Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. When a tree stands motionless through winter, it is not dead. When the bamboo does not break through the soil for 5 years, it is not lifeless, it is preparing." Beneath the surface there is movement, quiet, unseen but powerful. The roots are anchoring, deepening, strengthening, because the foundation must come before the flourish. And so it is with you. Your progress is not always visible, but that does not make it any less real. Sometimes the process asks you to rest not because you're lazy, but because you're healing. Sometimes your growth will look like stillness, because the changes are internal. Your thoughts are shifting, your beliefs are being rewritten, old identities are dissolving layer by layer. And you may feel disoriented, not because you're failing, but because you're evolving into someone you've never been before. In modern life, we are conditioned to measure value by output, productivity, results. But the Shaolin path teaches us to value awareness over achievement, presence over proof. Not every season is for harvesting. Some seasons are for planting, and others for waiting. Not out of passivity, but out of trust. Trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you. Trust that energy moves before matter. This path requires discipline. The discipline to continue when there's no applause. To sit in silence when the world screams for results. To keep the mind calm even as doubts rise like waves. But if you watch the breath, observe the thoughts, return to the now, you realize this is the real training. The ability to be still and not panic. To be unseen and not feel unworthy. To be in between. When nothing seems to be happening on the outside, it is often because something is being prepared within you. A shift in consciousness, a new level of clarity, a deeper anchoring into your values. And when that inner shift completes, life outside begins to reorganize itself to match. This is the law of inner mastery. The outer world follows the inner one. So don't be discouraged by the silence, don't be fooled by the pause. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean you've stopped growing. Just because the world isn't clapping doesn't mean your efforts are in vain. Real change happens in the dark. Just like the seed buried in soil. Just like the sunrise that begins long before the light appears. With breath, with presence, with stillness. You walk through this part of your journey not demanding answers, but allowing them. Not rushing outcomes, but trusting timing. Because slowly, silently, something is taking root. And when it finally breaks through, when your inner work begins to show in the outer world, you won't even feel surprised. You'll feel ready because you stayed, you trusted, you waited. And that trust becomes the soil from which a new self begins to rise. There comes a moment in your journey when you stop waiting, waiting to be rescued, waiting to be validated, waiting for someone to finally see you, choose you, fight for you. It is not a moment of bitterness, but of awakening. A still, powerful realization that the person you've been waiting for has always been you. You begin to understand that your task is not to chase love or recognition or security from others. Your task is to become the woman your younger self cried for, dreamed of, desperately needed. What did she need? Not perfection. and not someone who had all the answers. She needed safety, strength, presence. She needed someone who would not abandon her when she was too much or not enough. Someone who wouldn't silence her voice to keep the peace. Someone who could hold her pain without looking away. That is your calling now, not to rewrite the past, but to redeem it. Not in the teachings of Shaolin, true power is not loud. It is steady. It does not dominate, it holds space. Becoming your own guide means learning how to mother yourself, mentor yourself, protect yourself. You become the calm voice in the storm, the grounded breath when the mind spirals, the hand that reaches inward, not outward, when fear creeps in. This is not about becoming whole, not because someone gave you what you lacked, but because you decided to build it yourself. Many of us carry wounds from childhood, from womanhood, from relationships where we were unseen or misunderstood. These wounds do not make you weak, they make you human. But the transformation begins when you stop expecting someone else to fix them. When you look in the mirror and say, I see you, I hear you, I will not leave you again. And you mean it. In that moment, everything changes. You are no longer performing for love, you are standing in it. You are no longer chasing worth, you are embodying it. You no longer look at your scars with shame, but with reverence. They are not proof of your damage, they are proof of your survival. And that survival becomes sacred when you use it not to build walls, but to build wisdom. Becoming the woman you needed is not a performance, it is a practice. It is how you speak to yourself in the quiet, how you forgive yourself for what you didn't know then, how you honor your softness without letting it become your weakness. It is the discipline of returning to yourself again and again, no matter how far you've wandered, because you are not a burden, you are a temple. And in that unfolding, you become a new presence in the world, a woman who is not ruled by her past, but rooted in it. A woman who does not need to be saved because she knows how to sit in the dark and light her own flame. A woman who doesn't need to be chosen because she has already chosen herself. The path is not easy. It requires clarity, patience, the willingness to disappoint others so that you do not betray yourself. But the reward is peace. The reward is sovereignty. The reward is a life where you are no longer fragmented by external expectations, but whole in your own truth. And when you live from that wholeness, something even deeper begins to awaken. A courage that says, I am no longer here to dim my light for comfort. I am here to live boldly and unapologetically. There is a strength that doesn't shout, a rebellion that doesn't raise its fist, a boldness that isn't loud but deeply, unshakably present. To live boldly as a woman who knows herself is not about defiance for its own sake. It is about alignment with who you truly are beneath the layers of expectation. It is not arrogance, it is remembrance. It is the quiet, sacred decision to stop asking for permission to exist fully. And it is the calm, unwavering refusal to keep shrinking for a world that benefits from your silence. You were not born to be palatable. You were not created to bend endlessly to roles, labels, or systems that cannot hold the truth of who you are. You were meant to be whole, not perfect, but whole. And that wholeness often threatens the narratives around you. Because a woman who does not need validation is powerful. A woman who says no with clarity and yes with intention begins to move differently. She no longer exists to serve everyone's comfort. She exists to serve her truth. And that truth, when fully embodied, becomes a form of spiritual resistance. In the Shaolin tradition, rebellion is not chaotic, it is conscious. A monk does not rebel against the world with aggression, but with awareness. Awareness is the highest form of rebellion because it breaks the illusion. And so when you begin to live unapologetically, you are not reacting, you are removing. From a deep place of inner knowing that does not need to be just, you understand that your presence is not too much. It is medicine for yourself and for those who are ready to receive it. To live boldly is to speak with intention, even when your voice shakes. It is to walk into rooms where your words has been questioned and take up space anyway. It is to allow your softness and your strength to coexist without apology. The world may not always celebrate this kind of courage, but the world is not your compass. Your inner alignment is. This kind of living requires discipline, not of the body alone, but of the spirit. The discipline to stay rooted in yourself when others misunderstand you. The discipline to say no when yes would betray your boundaries. The discipline to walk away from what is comfortable in order to remain in integrity. And that discipline is not restrictive, it is freeing. It frees you from the need to prove to be anything other than who you are. Let others call you intimidating. Let them say you've changed. Growth is often misread by those still attached to your former version. But you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to live in a way that makes you feel whole. You are here to carry your truth not as a burden, but as a flame. And sometimes just standing in your truth is the most powerful act of transformation. You become a mirror, a reminder, a quiet invitation for others to do the same. And when you walk through life like this, rooted, unapologetic, unshaken by external noise, you don't need to force anything. The right people, the right places, the right path begins to meet you where you are. Not because you chased it, but because you finally became a match for what was always meant for you. So walk boldly, speak clearly, take up your space, not with ego, but with presence. Because this is not just for you, this is for every version of you that was told to be quiet. This is for the girl you used to be and the woman still rising. Every step you take in alignment is an act of sacred rebellion. Every moment you choose truth over conformity, courage over comfort, is a quiet revolution. And in the end, you don't just become the woman you promised yourself you'd be. You become the woman others never believed was possible, until they saw you. So now, breathe slowly, deeply. Let the silence between these words echo what you already know. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering someone eternal. You are not chasing timelines. You are aligning with your truth. You are not waiting to be chosen. The woman you promised yourself you'd become. She is not a dream. She is not far away. She is here in every decision you make with awareness, in every step you take with intention, in every moment you return to your breath instead of your fear. This journey is not loud. It is sacred. It is yours. So walk it with grace. Walk it with stillness. And most of all, walk it as the woman who remembers she has already arrived. This is the Shaolin way. Strong, calm, unshakably present.